This is Nightline.
Tonight, Diddy on trial. The bad boy for life rapper.
'Cause it's bad boy for life.
Now in the legal fight of his life.
He's just ready to have his side told.
The explosive opening arguments in the federal trial. Prosecutors saying he's a serial abuser who for decades forced women to participate in drug-fueled sex parties he called freak-offs.
The freak-offs, according to prosecutors, were these sex marathons. Some of them lasted days.
He's denied all charges. Combs' defense team saying the relationships were consensual and part of his swingers lifestyle. The shocking thing, they admitted in court about that infamous video of Diddy and now ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura.
Everyone was leaning in and focusing and watching this video. Literally, you can hear a pin drop in that courtroom.
What the security guard said about the aftermath of that violent attack, and the man who was allegedly paid to be inside the bedroom with Cassie and Combs.
You heard so much about sex. You heard about baby oil being put on people's body. You heard so much. This is not a case for the prude.
What he says he saw and why he feared for his life.
From ABC News headquarters in New York, this is Nightline.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. It's day one of the celebrity trial gripping much of the nation. Sean Diddy Combs, once one of entertainment's most powerful moguls, accused of crimes so heinous, he faces the possibility of spending the rest of his life behind bars. He's denied all charges. And just a warning, this story contains accounts, descriptions, and visual content of actual or alleged events that some may find disturbing.
Mom, how are you feeling today, Mom? How is your son?
Can't talk about the case at all.
All eyes are on this New York City courthouse as the federal trial for disgraced mogul Sean Diddy Combs begins.
Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs goes on trial today.
Combs is inside the courtroom along with those prospective jurors.
He faces multiple charges, including racketeering and sex trafficking.
The musician famous for hits like Bad Boy for Life and Can't Nobody Hold Me Down. Charged with sex trafficking, transportation for prostitution, and racketeering conspiracy, the 55-year-old has pleaded not guilty to all charges.
Today was a monumental day when we're talking about Sean Combs, P. Diddy, Puff Daddy. At one point, he also had the actual key to New York City. So to see him today facing trial on federal criminal charges is completely a downfall of who Puff Daddy, who Sean Combs was.
Prosecutors allege he used his power to force women into prolonged drug-fueled orgies he called freak-offs, and then threatened them into silence.
The freak-offs, according to prosecutors, were these sex marathons. Some of them lasted days, and they were fueled by ecstasy or other party drugs. And women were not allowed to leave.
Highly anticipated at the trial, the testimony of Cassandra Ventura, the singer better known as Cassie, who is at the center of this now infamous video. The disturbing scene appears to show Combs chasing her down a hotel hallway in 2016, knocking her down and kicking her. The first evidence shown to jurors today, videos and photos from that violent encounter.
Everyone was leaning in and focusing and watching this video. Literally, you can hear a pin drop in that courtroom.
A security guard who came onto the scene in the aftermath of that attack testified that Diddy had a devilish stare and Cassie had a purple eye. Another witness alleging he was paid to have sex with Cassie while Diddy watched and told to urinate on Cassie.
You heard so much about sex during the prosecution's opening, the defense opening. You heard about oral sex. You heard about missionary style. You heard about baby oil being put on people's body. You heard so much. This is not a case for the prude.
Cassie and Diddy were in a romantic relationship for almost a decade, releasing hits like Me and You.
They know you're the one I wanna give it to. I can see you on me too. Now it's me and you.
Her graphic and disturbing 2023 civil lawsuit against Diddy changed everything, helping spur the federal criminal investigation into the mogul. Diddy has denied these allegations and settled that suit without admission of wrongdoing.
Mom, how are you feeling?
Diddy's mother and children arriving to court this morning to support him, along with Combs' spokesperson.
Obviously, this is like a horrific time for the family, so they're just trying to hold steady in their faith and make sure that they take care of each other.
And how is Mr. Combs feeling?
Upbeat. I think, obviously this is a huge deal, and so he's just ready to have his side told in open court.
Inside the courtroom today, Diddy smiling and blowing kisses to his family.
He's very observant as to what's going on in the courtroom, and he's taken part in his defense.
Both sides delivered their opening statements, making their case. The all-female prosecution team saying that Combs used a trusted inner circle to commit crime after crime, including kidnapping, arson, and sex crimes. Prosecutor Emily Johnson saying, "This is Sean Combs. To the public, he was Puff Daddy, or Diddy, a cultural icon, a businessman larger than life. But there was another side to him, a side that ran a criminal enterprise."
The prosecution is alleging that it was his inner circle that enabled him to be able to engage in these acts, but also hide these acts from the public and for it to go on for so long.
At least 3 alleged victims of Diddy are expected to testify, including Cassie, and a woman prosecutors are referring to as Jane. During opening arguments, prosecutors alleged that Diddy forced the women to participate in so-called freak-offs and instructed Cassie and Jane how to look, to dress in lingerie, wear tall platform high heels, and have manicured white nails. Diddy's defense arguing the sexual relationships were consensual and not coerced, saying the rapper lived a swingers lifestyle.
The defense wants to say that these women are all adults. They're all consenting and willing participants in these freak-offs.
Defense attorney Tenny Garrigo saying in her opening statement, that may not be what you like to do in your bedroom, but you're not here to judge him for his sexual preferences. She later added, being a willing participant in your own sex life is not sex trafficking. That disturbing video was also part of the defense's opening arguments, plainly saying it was an instance of domestic violence. Garrigo saying, domestic violence is not sex trafficking. Had he been charged with domestic violence, had he been charged with assault, we would not be here right now.
The defense said that Sean Combs may be a lot of things. He may have committed domestic violence, but those aren't the crimes the defense said that he's charged with. So in effect, the argument is he's a criminal, just not the kind of criminal they say he is.
The first testimony in the trial taking jurors to Los Angeles, March 2016, in the hotel where that surveillance video was taken. The first witness, an LAPD officer who worked security at the hotel, he says he responded to a call for a woman in distress on the 6th floor.
When he got to the floor, he noticed that there was glass on the floor, that the vase and the flowers were broken.
The security guard described going back to Diddy's hotel room and standing in the doorway while Ventura grabbed her things. Inside, another man sitting at the corner of the bed.
So from the very start, the first witness brings the jury into that hallway where he said Sean Combs looked at him with a devilish stare and Cassie Ventura had a purple eye.
Sean Combs tried to offer him money, to give him money to make this go away, and he said he wouldn't accept the money.
The second witness to take the stand, Daniel Phillip, a man who said he was paid to have sex with Cassie on multiple occasions at several high-end New York City hotels, while Diddy watched. The witness said he was paid between $700 and $6,000 each time.
So Mr. Phillip agreed to go to the Gramercy Hotel to do a performance for a bachelorette party. At least that's what he thought. But when he got to the hotel, to the room, that Cassie opened up the door. He did not know that was Cassie, and that she told him, well, it's my birthday and my husband wants to do something special, so can you give me a massage with this body oil, and then we can just take it from there and see where it leads.
Diddy allegedly in the corner masturbating, wearing a bandana over his face. During these meetups, he says Diddy would often give directions and at times tell him to step off and back up because he was going to get some.
Sean Combs's children, his mother, came to court to support him, but when the testimony became graphic, his daughters stood up and walked out. And they came back in at one point. The testimony got more graphic about ejaculation, about urination. That was too much. They turned and walked out again.
Philip also described witnessing Diddy drag and hit Cassie. When asked by prosecutors why he didn't intervene, he testified, "My thoughts was that this was someone with unlimited power, and chances that even if I did go to the police, that I might still end up losing my life." Cassie, who's now 8 months pregnant, is expected to take the stand tomorrow.
Cassie's the case. Cassie Ventura, who has not spoken about this publicly except in a civil lawsuit, is taking the witness stand as a star witness.
Her husband and father of her children spotted at court today. If convicted, Combs could face life in prison. When we return, we unpack the day's testimony, both sides' strategies, and what all of it could mean for the Grammy winner who once seemed to have it all. This special edition of Nightline, Diddy on Trial. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Joining me now to help break down this first explosive day of testimony, ABC legal contributor Brian Bruckmeyer and ABC News contributor Kelly Carter. Kelly, I'd like to start with you. There's so much attention on this trial. What is it about Diddy, his power, his fame, his people so riveted?
I think it's a little bit of all of those things. You know, we're talking about someone who has been a cultural icon going on 3 decades now, and who also really helped shepherd the hip hop community into the mainstream. This is a man who helped make this fragmented music a multi-billion-dollar business, and he brought it to boardrooms, he brought it to Fashion Week front shows, and I think that's really why everyone is so riveted by this trial right now. The public kind of thirst for wanting to know things, and I think what makes this even more of a spectacle is that there are not cameras inside of the courtroom, so people are just refreshing feeds and social media and Twitter accounts to find out anything they can about what's happening inside of that courtroom and who is showing up in that courtroom.
Yeah, I found myself doing exactly that today. Brian, prosecutors talked about freak-offs in opening arguments. Sean Combs' defense lawyers said he led a swinger lifestyle and downplayed the freak-offs as consensual threesomes, arguing the government has no place in the bedroom. How do you think the jury will respond to that?
So I actually had the opportunity to be in court and watch the jurors as they heard this information. They were very stoic, I would describe, and listened to both the government and the defense make the argument. And for the defense, they really tried to reinvent or repurpose the evidence in a way that said, this isn't about coercion, but it's about abuse. And they kind of embraced the idea that Sean Combs had done, quote, indefensible things that no one would like or no one would want anyone to do or be done to them. But he didn't commit the crimes he's being accused of. They're walking a very tightrope, trying to thread the needle, whatever analogy you want to use, to make the argument that he's not guilty of the crimes he's being accused of.
Let's dig deeper about that very point, Brian. Combs' defense lawyer, as you said, admitted he committed domestic violence, but didn't amount to sex trafficking. Is that a smart thing to admit to a jury, that while my client may be guilty of this, showed poor judgment in this way, lacks character in this way, don't judge him harshly over there?
Smart or not, I think we're going to probably find that out when the verdict comes in. But right now, I think it's the only decision they could have done, because that video that we have all seen to some degree was front and center in the trial. It came in through one of the first witnesses. And so to deny that existed, to deny that Sean Combs had abused or assaulted anyone in any way, I think would have taken away from any credibility that the defense had. But they can make a very surgical argument of, it's not about whether or not Sean Combs is guilty of any crime. It's whether or not the government proves their case, which is specific to 5 counts in the indictment and every element of those crimes beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's what they're focused in on, that you're not going to like Sean Combs for what he did, but he's not guilty of what he's being accused of.
And you mentioned Cassie Ventura. We expect she will take the stand tomorrow. How important is her testimony? What does she provide the prosecution?
So, yes, we know that the cross-examination of a male escort will finish sometime tomorrow morning. Xavier Donaldson, the defense attorney cross-examiner, said it'll be about another hour. And then we're expecting Cassie Ventura to take the stand. And I think it's important for a number of reasons. One, She is, according to the government, victim one, and she holds a lot of the allegations that are attributed to both the racketeering charge as well as one count of the sex trafficking. But I think more importantly, she's going to be able to color the intent of Sean Combs based on the actions and allegations she's going to provide. Because again, for the government, this is sex trafficking. This was a use of force, fraud, and coercion to control Cassie, as well as another alleged victim in this case, to commit these crimes. But for the defense, they're saying that this was a mutual relationship, a very tumultuous relationship of abuse and violence by both parties, and that it was not done to coerce anyone, to force anyone, to compel anyone. And so her rendition of these allegations are going to help compel the jury one way or another.
So, Kelly, Brian gave us the legal argument of the importance of Cassie's testimony, but the court of public opinion, how this will play with the jurors, what do you think?
We've never heard her actually speak. So I think, to hear her on stand, even though a lot of us will not actually hear her on stand, but the jurors absolutely will, to see the emotion, to see how she delivers it, to have her really give that timeline and walk us through, what it was like living with him and experiencing all the things. I think that's going to go really far for the jury.
And Brian, final question to you. Cassie takes the witness stand tomorrow. Will she be the star witness of this case, or is she setting the table for someone else later, you think?
Oh, I think Cassie is absolutely the star witness in this case. If there was ever a case, I'm looking at her civil case, that started this all, it would be that civil case where we all started to turn our attention on what could be the end result of Sean Combs after an investigation. Her allegations feed in many of the charges, and I think all eyes are going to be on her because we've seen her so much in the public arena, but never really understood what happened behind closed doors. And I think that's what's really gripping people and bringing them to this story. And the fact that she is very much pregnant testifying, and the fact that she's testifying first, I think, so she can go and have this baby afterwards, is going to bring more attention and more eyes on this case and the way that she handles herself on that witness stand.
Brian Buckmeyer, Kelly Carter, thank you both so much. And we'll be right back. That does it for this special edition of Nightline. Tomorrow night, continuing coverage of Sean Combs' trial. What could be a pivotal day. The rapper's ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, is expected to take the stand. Thanks for the company, America. Good night.